couple years ago now, this Japanese boys love manga came out in English. However, unlike the original version, the femboy protagonist is suddenly a trans woman due to slight translation differences. In this video, I will investigate the differences between the original Japanese manga and this English official translation before it got recalled. That's right, lovely audience, this is kind of lost media, kind of not, as the original can't be bought anymore. However, let's have a look at what exactly caused such a fuss in the first place, and if it's overblown or not. Let's have a look. I Think I Turned My Childhood Best Friend into a Girl, also known as恋する乙女の作り方, is a Japanese boys love manga about Hiura, who is a super introverted guy that doesn't really get out much. However, his childhood friend Mido has a huge secret obsession with makeup and all that is involved with it, and wants to become a beautician someday. However, when Hiura reluctantly lets Mido dress him up as a woman, suddenly he goes, oh wait, this is kinda cool. The manga's two protagonists both defy masculinity in their own ways, with Hiura liking to dress femme and with Mido liking makeup. Both of them, despite identifying as male, enjoy things that are seen as feminine, and I think that parallel is really key to the two's relationship throughout the story. At the start of the story, Hiura reluctantly wears girls' clothes and presents femme and lets Mido dress him up. On the next day of school, Hiura decided to wear girls' clothes to school. Mido asks why Hiura wants to do this, and the reason given is, I'm starting to feel like this is who I am. However, in the Japanese text, there's a little more hesitation in this realization. I feel like this appearance might be my true self. It's just worth mentioning that the Japanese version has a little more emphasis on the appearance aspect, like Hiura feeling like this appearance is reflecting their true self, whereas the English version is a bit more like this is who I am as like a holistic thing. Bear in mind this is the start of the story, and I think it's fairly reasonable for Hiura to be questioning gender at this stage of the story, like whether it's like a femboy reading or a trans girl reading. I don't think the difference is that apparent in this particular scene. However, the English version is a bit more like implying that Hiura is a trans woman. Bear in mind in this video I will refer to Hiura as a femboy, as that's the interpretation I get. However, just remember Japanese doesn't have a direct equivalent to this. The scene that's probably been changed the most compared to the original Japanese version is this scene I'm about to talk about here. Now, the thing to keep in mind about this before I explain it is that in Japanese, gendered pronouns aren't as much of a thing, right? They still exist. Kare, kanojo are still pronouns that are used. However, they are not used anywhere near as much in Japanese compared to English. Just keep in mind the reason these aren't really used is they're kind of saved for romantic contexts rather than just generalized referring to someone. As a result, keep in mind the translator had to kind of pick a pronoun for Hiura. This is just a hurdle that translators have to overcome when translating works from Japanese into English. They have to make decisions like these. This is why translation isn't one-to-one, when you're not given all the information you need. With that said, let's talk about the scene that caused the most controversy. So in this scene, Hiura is attending school for the first time in girls' clothes and is being kind of reintroduced to the class. In this scene, the teacher says to the students, starting today, Hiura will be presenting like this. Please make sure she feels welcome. As a result of this scene, from this point on, Hiura is referred to as she, her pronouns in this translation of the manga. However, let's have a look at this a little further. The part I find most interesting is the word presenting being used, as I feel like we associate the word presenting with presenting as a gender, as in that's their gender, you know? So if I were to translate this scene literally, here's what it is instead. Starting today, Hiura will be attending school with this appearance. Make sure he feels welcome. Now, the only reason I know to use he, him for Hiura is because I've read the manga author's tweets directly mentioning this, but this information was not out there when this translation was made. So just keep that in mind. I likely would have done the same thing if I was in that translator's shoes. It's just what it is. Soon after this though, all the girls in the class are really receptive and accepting because Hiura looks cute and kind of welcomes it in with the circle of the girls. And I feel like this scene's really cute, and I just love the overall positivity towards Hiura's transformation, so to speak. I just really like that Hiura is welcomed in the circle of girls. However you view Hiura's identity, I think this scene doesn't invalidate that, as many people that are femme-presenting but still identify as male may find a lot of comfort in hanging out with feminine spaces. So you might be wondering what information the translator had that may have informed this decision? Here's my theory. This scene right here.
Hey, Hiura. You're late. Sorry. I needed the perfect lipstick. I know waiting around's a pain. Sorry. Boop.
And just like that, I decided to become a girl. God, Mino, I hate you.
What?
1. That scene's adorable. 2. Let's look at how the Japanese version approaches this exact same scene. Everything else is more or less the same except one little difference. That's right, lovely audience. Is turned into boop. This English translation has changed the original meaning beyond repair. The little has become boop. Have translators gone too far? No, it's actually a pretty accurate translation. Anyway, here's the bit I'm actually referring to. And this is how I decided to become a girl. As you can see, that translation was significantly different from... Wait a second. It's the same. That is a literal translation. I just did it a little differently. What gives, random YouTuber, you may be wondering. And here's the thing, lovely audience. The reason there's so much confusion with the translation of this story is because the story itself is a bit vague about it. The story's literally called I Think I Turned My Childhood Friend to a Girl. If you translate the Japanese title literally, it's literally How to Make a Girl Fall in Love. But the girl is in like kind of brackets. So, you know, that's implying maybe not a girl, but, you can't blame the translator for going this route. I just think they should have been provided a little more information. To be real, lovely audience, the manga's actually very faithfully translated. I think the person that did it did a really good job. It's just this one tiny misunderstanding led to the whole thing being recalled. Optimism and positivity towards gender nonconformity. The part of the story that makes it so warm and happy is how much happier Hiura looks and slowly comes out of his shell and does the things he wants to do and talks to people more, goes out of his comfort zone, makes friends, gets closer with Middle, the guy he liked all his life. I just really like that angle, and that makes me love the story so much. It's just such a nice, fluffy romance story. Like, we need more of those, okay? Like, how many fluffy femboy gay mangas do we have? Usually when yaoi mangas have cross-dressing as an element, usually the guy is like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Yeah, nope, don't like this. Nope, this is oof. But instead of having a character that hates every second of wearing a skirt, we instead have a non-conforming male protagonist that enjoys wearing femme clothes and blossoms in happiness. That's why this story works. That's why it's beautiful. I love seeing the romance of Mido and Hiura get closer and closer throughout the story. I just really love this manga, and I get sad sometimes that all it will be remembered for in the English-speaking world is the controversy. Let me make something super clear. I don't want this video to be about how we lost a trans representation in manga. No, instead, I want this video to celebrate a gender non-conforming protagonist in a cute gay story. So in conclusion, was the controversy overblown? Yes. Please don't hunt the translator for sport. Oh my god, please don't. Instead, let's just celebrate this nice manga. It's a really nice work, and I'm glad the author's intent gets to be out there, and I also am glad that it kind of led to this scenario where I could talk a bit more about gender expression and transness in manga. Also, the video prompted an opportunity to use my Japanese degree for something. Yeah, I don't get to use that much. I was really happy to have an excuse to talk about this manga, and I hope more people read it, as I think it's a nice, optimistic queer romance story. We need more of those. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the funny like button, subscribe, and comment what you feel, and I'll see you next week for more weekly trans content. Until next time, stay hydrated and know that you are valid. Can this get an anime, please?